Good morning. I could not be more excited to be here right now. As Steve mentioned, my name is Lara Swanson, and I am the engineering manager, formerly of the mobile web team, now the performance team at Etsy. We're going to talk about overcoming the challenge of getting people to care about mobile web within your organization. All of these slides are at laraswanson.com/culture, which you can find from my Twitter handle at Lara Swanson. So I work for Etsy. It is a marketplace where people around the world connect to buy and sell unique goods. We've got a very large engineering team made up of two different kinds of teams at Etsy. The first kind is feature teams. So these are the folks made up of developers and designers and product managers working on all of the member-facing features like the listing page, checkout, and seller tools. Then we have infrastructure teams who support these feature teams. These teams focus on helping make products, features, and experiments as fast as possible, help people gather accurate data, and help people do quality assurance. So in 2011, we spun up a new infrastructure team, the mobile web team. So at the end of 2011, a handful of developers got together and decided that Etsy needed a mobile web optimized purchasing experience. They created our first mobile web templates, which delivered great performance and an optimized design for small screens. So here's some of the decisions that they made. These developers decided to implement a user agent sniffer, which delivered different templates to handsets and to desktops. So they delivered an optimized design and layout with optimized assets for these devices. These developers also decided to not build a web app. Etsy was aiming for desktop parity. We wanted it to feel like the same experience at any URL, no matter what device you're on. And part of that was deciding to not include a mobile subdomain, which was bad for performance anyway. These developers were responsible for mobilizing everything. All of the features that were being rolled out would be handed over to that team, and they'd be responsible for mobilizing existing work too. This worked okay for a while. With an optimized buyer experience for handsets, Etsy said to all the feature teams, this is important, and it should be a priority for everyone who's developing a new feature. But building desktop parity is hard. With the forked sets of desktop and mobile templates, it got even harder. Engineers outside of the mobile web team mostly hated dealing with it. This is also when we started to explore native development. We thought of mobile web as the entry point onto mobile, and then Etsy started building a mobile app with a more optimized user experience. This was a big distraction for us for mobile web, and frankly, thinned our resources, which had been focused on mobile web. So the mandate came down that everyone on feature teams should be doing mobile web rather than a small, dedicated team of mobile web folks. So we disbanded the mobile web team. The engineers who were on that team went on to do awesome work on product teams and infrastructure teams. So as you can imagine, no mobile web work happened for quite a while. So designers and developers on feature teams were scared to try working on new versions. It was really intimidating to start designing and developing and planning products for mobile. You can't change 8 years of product development workflow overnight, and it was a lot of work to create mobile web templates, and there was a lot of code duplication. Further, for most teams, it felt like developing for mobile would add a tremendous amount of time to product development cycles to accommodate for all the different screen size, operating systems, and bugs that they'd just never dealt with before. During this time, we also started to see Android tablets rise in traffic, as well as Kindles, and then the iPad mini. And then we started getting calls from Microsoft and Firefox asking us why we weren't delivering mobile web templates to their handsets. And because of all these challenges, we didn't really have any sort of commitment to mobile web from the business or the product. Our mobile web experience fell way behind for a year because no one was caring about mobile web, no one was shipping products with it, and no one was teaching it to each other. So what do you do when something like this happens within your engineering culture? You could give up. You could say, you know what? Never mind. I said that was important. It wasn't actually important at all. Let's just forget about that whole thing. Just kidding. But unfortunately, we really can't when it comes to mobile. I mean, this stuff is just increasing at like crazy. Mobile web as a percentage of total internet traffic continues to rise. So you can try appointing mobile web cops or janitors. Come in as a hammer, come in as a cleanup crew, and try to fix this problem within your organization. So we did that. In 2013, I was hired to lead that group. I was super excited about this. My love for mobile web was obvious and, dare I say, contagious to everybody who was around me. We got to work on mobile web as cops and janitors working on mobilizing more of Etsy. But feature teams know best how their feature should work on the mobile web. They're the subject matter experts. It is way less for feature teams to learn how to develop for mobile than it is for our mobile team to learn all the ins and outs and use cases and best practices for those features. Also, burnout happens when you start to get more cops and janitors. So we tried implementing technical solutions. Again, we really loved mobile web, and we were so excited to create tools to help people create responsive designs, analyze mobile experiments, begin physical device testing, and we spent a ton of resources focusing on what could possibly make it easier for people to develop for mobile. But even this didn't work. No matter how much we lowered the barrier to entry for developing for mobile web, no one else was doing it. I didn't understand. Doesn't everybody get how awesome mobile web is? Weren't we making it as easy as possible to do it right? We also needed to look at shifting behaviors to enact culture change. The first time, we thought that just disbanding the team and telling everybody would work. And then we thought that more tools to help people develop for mobile web would be the solution. We were wrong on both counts. So how can infrastructure teams go about solving this kind of cultural problem? At Etsy, infrastructure teams are constantly focused on making sure feature teams are gathering the right data, making things fast, and doing QA. And it turns out, around the time we were stumbling along with mobile web, the performance team was getting people to care about performance, ship performance improvements, and teach each other about it. So I'm going to take a few minutes and walk through exactly how the performance team achieved a cultural shift at Etsy. First, they realized that education was the most important first step in getting people to care about performance and ship page load time improvements. If you're on staff, every time you log into Etsy.com, you have a robust suite of tools that help you understand the experiments that are running or the visit traffic for this page. The performance team surfaced data that was easy to spot and understand on each page. The toolbar now shows performance timings, and it'll alert you if you're violating any of our performance service level agreements. By surfacing this in people's daily workflow, developers were able to see how their work directly impacts performance daily. The performance team also partnered with other teams to run experiments that measured performance impact on business metrics. Like in this example, the added page weight that they found increased bounces significantly by about 12% on mobile devices. The performance team was able to share this data with all the feature teams to help them educate them about how their work impacts baseline business metrics. The next step was incentivizing coworkers. The man behind these sunglasses is Seth Walker, and he published Etsy's first ever performance report on the public Etsy news blog in about August of 2011. He picked some metrics that could be measured and shared every month. And in the first report, we had one very clear outlier, the homepage. It stuck out as our slowest page by far. And what's fascinating is that developers banded together with the performance team to fix it. In the follow-up performance report in November of 2011, we highlighted the awesome improvement on the homepage. These developers had not only fixed it, but they'd made it one of the fastest pages that we were sharing data for. And we want to celebrate these kinds of wins by feature teams internally as well. I think we're missing some sunglasses. There we go. So we want to celebrate these kinds of wins. We have an internal dashboard in which we showcase engineers on feature teams and the improvements that they're shipping to our any kind of experience. In this case, we showcase what we called a Baumgartner. If you guys remember Felix Baumgartner, who hopped out of a hot air balloon. Every time we have a graph like this, we want to celebrate this internally. Chris Fairbanks did some amazing cleanup, and we wanted to celebrate this. So by combining the incentives and the education, the performance team empowered everyone at Etsy to do site speed well. And because the performance team was educating people, empowering them, and incentivizing them, people started to care about performance, ship page load time improvements, and teach each other about it. So I want to tell you a story about two developers I work with. One is named Stan, and one is named Bucky. And yes, these are real people. And Stan noticed that Bucky had just shipped a deploy that probably triggered a performance issue. This happens in IRC. So Stan's like, hey, Bucky, performance just jumped with this deploy. And Stan's like, thank you, looking now. And Stan drops a dashboard link in, and then Bucky goes and fixes it and starts pushing out his new deployment. And Yash is like, great catch, Stan. Thank you so much for your vigilance. And Ross says, thanks for seeing something and saying something. And Bucky's like, Stan for president. And none of these people are on the performance team. The performance team enacted culture change and got everyone to care about this stuff. So how can we apply this to solving mobile web's culture problem at Etsy? We can start by educating coworkers. We started holding lunch and learns and lectures and all kinds of talks internally to help people understand more about what mobile web is about. Mobile web performance is obviously an enormous priority, so we educated feature teams about how to handle images, the design differences that they should consider when making a new feature, and just why mobile web is so finicky in terms of page load time. Testing is obviously a big deal, and will help you find bugs before launching your feature. So we will walk teams through how to use tools like Adobe Edge Inspect for testing, how to use various simulators, and how to remotely debug their work. Here's what we're doing for designers in particular. Touch can be a really scary consideration for people who have only developed for cursors. So how do we go about incentivizing coworkers to work on mobile web? This used to be our device lab. It was real sad. It was locked. You didn't know what was in it, if it was dead or half charged or anything. So there was truly no incentive to go and test on real physical devices any of the work that anybody was doing. So we built this beautiful thing. It is the love of my life. I love it with all my heart. It is shiny. It is a social spot. We set it up near couches, and tons of collaboration began to happen. It really shifted our culture towards a mobile focus because it was easier and more fun to do this. We also put up some dashboards. This went on a monitor near our engineering team. We wanted to showcase to people above that 50% line, you really are working with our users. The more you can work on mobile web and mobile apps, you absolutely are touching our mobile user base. We also had a hack week. That's Bucky, by the way, we forced everybody at Etsy to look at mobile web templates for a full week as they were designing and developing. And amazing things happened. People shipped amazing improvements to member-facing features, but they also built tools internally to help us develop it even easier for mobile. When it comes to empowering coworkers, one of the most important things that could have happened at Etsy. Chad Dickerson, our Etsy CEO, said in a company meeting, "We are a mobile-first company." I wanted to give him all of the high fives afterwards. And we saw feature teams beginning to care about mobile web, shipping mobile web improvements, and teaching it to each other. So we often share emails internally. Every time there's a new feature or experiment being rolled out, it gets emailed to everybody at Etsy. So I'm going to read you one. I got this one, and I was surprised. Remember this win on desktop, where we added some light copy changes and saw a lift conversion? As promised, we're running this experiment on mobile web. I remember the day that I got this one. I was like, yeah, that's real cool. Thanks, guys, for doing that. I'm actually really impressed. This is the first time that this has happened unprompted. But then I got this email. Does this new feature work on mobile? Absolutely. We found that a one-template approach for this page was much better for both user experience and operational overhead. And I was like, I just can't even. This is beautiful. You're thinking not just about the user experience of mobile web, but about the operational costs. I cannot even deal with how happy I am right now. And then I got this one. In response to people asking this development group whether or not they'd consider mobile web in this new feature, they said, yeah, and we mobilized the interactions feed and the activity feed, which wasn't previously mobilized. And I was like, my job here is done. I'm just high-fiving a million. I'm so happy about this. And in early 2014, we realized Etsy had made the cultural shift that we needed to make. Sure, we built the tools, but finally we were able to celebrate feature teams caring about mobile web, shipping it, and teaching each other about it. So these are our success metrics. Which of these are you missing? What is it that you're championing at your organization? Maybe it's not mobile web or even performance. Are the people around you caring about it too? Are they shipping code that plays nicely with it? Are the people who surround you able to talk to each other and teach each other about it? What piece are you missing from this puzzle? Ask yourself what you need to do to overcome these roadblocks. Sometimes it's hard to see what we've been blind to for so long. Etsy's case, it took us a long time to realize the piece of the puzzle that we were missing. Because as developers, we like to just throw technology at a problem and hope it's just going to be fixed by that alone. But technology alone won't help the people at your company champion what it is that you are passionate about. So when you go back to work tomorrow, think about how you can foster a culture that creates tools and build tools that help people champion your passion. Thank you very much.